A modern container ship can carry more than 24,000 TEUs. Those steel boxes fill the cargo holds and rise high above the deck. When the ship starts to roll, the entire stack is pulled from one side to the other. Every container still has to stay in place until the ship reaches its destination. The work that keeps all of it safe begins long before the vessel ever leaves port. More than 80% of the world's traded goods by volume move by sea. Containers carry a huge share of the finished products inside that network. The same box can leave a factory on the back of a truck. At the next terminal, a crane moves it onto a train or directly onto a ship. When it reaches the destination country, that same unit goes back onto the road with the cargo still sealed inside. This system began growing quickly after the voyage of the 𝗖𝗄𝗃𝗁 in 1956. The ship sailed from New Jersey to Texas with 58 containers on deck. The cargo had already been packed before it reached the port. Workers no longer had to move every item one by one from a warehouse into the ship. Time at the dock dropped and the vessel could get back to sea much faster. That new way of moving cargo changed the shape of ports. Large warehouse areas started giving way to wide container yards. Giant cranes appeared along the waterfront. Truck lanes and rail lines moved closer to the terminals. Ships also kept getting larger until their capacity passed 24,000 TEUs. The 𝗬𝗂𝗂𝗁𝗁 𝗂𝗂𝗃𝗁𝗁 is one example of that scale. It can carry up to 24,346 TEU. The ship is about 1,312 feet long and around 202 feet wide. A vessel that large only works because every container meets equipment built around the same standard dimensions. A 20-foot container is the base unit for 1 TEU. A 40-foot container counts as 2 TEU. The corner fittings at each corner also have to sit in exact positions. When a crane spreader comes down, all 4 locks have to meet the 4 corners of the container at the same time. A small difference in the frame can stop the process before the box even leaves the terminal. At the beginning of this whole network is one steel box that has to be built with very precise dimensions. Its journey starts as a long sheet of steel. A steel coil is unrolled on the production line and the surface is cleaned. The metal has to be ready for primer, which helps protect it from corrosion. A container may spend years moving through marine environments. Salt air keeps hitting the surface while heat, rain, and changing weather follow it from one trip to the next. The steel sheet then moves into a corrugating machine. A press forms long ridges across the panel. This shape makes the walls stiffer without adding too much weight. The panel stays relatively thin, but it becomes strong enough to handle pressure when cargo moves or when the box takes a light impact. In the welding area, workers connect those panels to the main frame. Corner posts stand at each corner and carry much of the load. When the container is lifted, the crane's force moves through these posts. When several containers are stacked, the weight from above travels down through the same corners. Heat from welding can pull steel out of shape. The frame is held in a jig until the joints are complete. An inspector measures the container diagonally from one corner to the other. Then the measurement is repeated from the opposite direction. The 2 numbers have to match. If the difference is too large, the frame goes back for repair. The inspector checks the frame geometry so a crane spreader can lock onto every corner and the doors still sit correctly after welding. A twisted frame can get stuck when it enters the cell guides inside a ship. A problem like that is much easier to fix at the factory than later when a crane is already waiting at the port. Corner fittings are installed at all 8 corners. They look like small steel blocks with openings designed for lifting and locking equipment. The openings on top connect with the crane spreader. The fittings between stocked containers receive twist locks that hold the boxes together on the ship. The doors are installed after the main body is finished. The locking bars have to move smoothly. Rubber gaskets run around the edge of the doors to help keep water out. Under the floor, cross members support the weight of the cargo and the wheels of forklifts driving inside. The floor is often made from special plywood or composite material. Workers install it over the lower frame and check that the surface is level. Even small floor damage can become a problem when a forklift carries a heavy load inside the box. Any unit that fails inspection is held back until repairs are complete. Once the container has its full shape, it moves into the coating area. Primer and paint protect the steel from the marine environment. An identification number is added to the body. On the doors, a CSC plate shows if the container design has passed an international safety approval process. During type approval, a prototype or representative unit from that design goes through structural testing. Containers coming off the production line then go through quality control to make sure their shape and workmanship still match the approved design. At the end of the line, inspectors check the welds and door position. In some factories, water is sprayed around the doors to look for leaks. If water appears inside, the container goes back to the repair station. A new unit is only released after it passes inspection. The finished container then enters the logistics network. A dry container is the most common type and carries goods that do not need temperature control. A reefer has its own cooling unit and needs electrical power during the trip. Both types use the same corner fittings, so standard cranes and truck chassis can handle them. Before cargo goes inside, the packing crew checks the interior. They inspect the floor and make sure the doors close properly. The way cargo is placed inside will affect what happens later when the container is at sea. Stuffing often happens far from the port. An empty container may arrive at a warehouse and sit at a loading bay for several hours. A supervisor watches how the cargo goes in and how much space remains near the doors. The supervisor also has to make sure the forklift does not damage the floor or hit the walls while turning inside the tight space. Once the cargo is secured, the door closest to the hinges is closed first. The locking bars are turned until they sit in the keepers. A worker checks the handle again to make sure pressure from the cargo inside is not pushing against the doors. If the door moves strangely, the container is held for inspection. Heavy cargo has to be placed so it does not put too much force on one part of the floor. The goods also have to be blocked and secured so they cannot move freely. When the ship rolls, loose cargo can slam into the walls or push against the doors from inside. The packing crew adds restraints that match the shape of the cargo until everything feels stable. After the doors are closed, a numbered seal is installed. That number goes into the shipping documents. When the container reaches its destination, the receiver can check whether the seal number is still the same. The seal acts as a control marker during the trip. The locking bars are still what physically hold the doors shut. The actual weight of the packed container also has to be sent to the terminal. SOLAS rules require every packed container to have a verified gross mass before it can be loaded onto a ship. The shipper can weigh the entire unit or use an approved calculation method. Without a VGM, the container cannot enter the final stowage plan. That number becomes part of the vessel planner's work. The planner starts with the port where each container will be unloaded and looks for a slot that keeps the ship stable. Reefers go into areas with power connections. Cargo with special requirements receives a position that matches its safety rules. On a control room screen, the ship looks like a three-dimensional grid. Every container has its own address. The planner keeps changing the arrangement as conditions at the terminal change. Sometimes a container has not reached the yard even though the cranes are ready to begin loading. The planner finds another box to fill the slot while still keeping the unloading order at the next port practical. The planner tries to avoid restows because every extra move uses crane time. Weight distribution along the ship also has to be checked. A poor position can create more work during unloading and place unnecessary stress on the vessel's structure. During the operation, information keeps flowing into the control room from the terminal and the ship. When a slot changes, the crane operator and the vehicle's moving containers from the yard need to see that change immediately. A communication mistake can send the correct box to the wrong bay. When loading begins, a yard vehicle carries the container under the quay crane. The operator sits high above the water. The spreader comes down until all 4 locks meet the corner fittings. Indicators inside the crane cabin confirm that the container is locked. The box lifts away from the vehicle and moves over the side of the ship. Wind can make it swing. The operator slows down as the container approaches the vessel. The last few inches are handled carefully so the corner of the box does not hit the cell guide. Inside the cargo hold, cell guides form vertical tracks. The corner posts follow those tracks until the container reaches its slot. More containers come down through the same guides until the stack inside the hull reaches its planned height. Once the hold is full, hatch covers close over the cargo space. Those covers become the base for containers placed above deck. The stacks in the open air will face wind and sea spray throughout the voyage. The crane lowers one container onto another. Twist locks connect the corner fittings between them. Once the area is safe, the lashing crew moves in. They carry long steel rods towards securing points on the deck or the lashing bridge. A crew member checks the connection up close before adding tension. He makes sure the rod sits correctly in the fitting and is not attached at the wrong angle. After tightening the turnbuckle, he pulls on the rod again to feel whether the connection is solid. Those long rods are heavy and the work area is tight. Cranes are still moving in other bays. The crew waits for signals before moving to the next dock. The speed of a port call still depends on people working only a few feet away from containers weighing tens of thousands of pounds. The lashing arrangement follows the ship's cargo securing manual. The location of the stack determines the forces it will face during the voyage. The crew uses the arrangement already calculated for that bay and leaves after the inspection is complete. Before leaving the area, the lashing crew checks whether the turnbuckle still has room for adjustment. They also look for rods that might touch another part when the stock moves. The inspection is done from a safe position and follows the arrangement in the ship's manual. Once that bay is closed, the crew moves on while the cranes continue loading. As the operation gets close to completion, the chief officer reviews the final reports from the deck. He needs to know whether the actual arrangement matches the latest plan. Any change made during loading has to go into the final calculations before the ship moves. Reefers already in position are connected to the ship's power supply. The crew checks that each unit is running and that its alarms can be read. Monitoring systems keep track of temperature while the ship is still in port and after it goes to sea. Before departure, the chief officer receives the final picture of the cargo actually on board. He checks the ship's draft and trim based on that arrangement. The real condition has to match the calculations before the vessel leaves the berth. The ship moves out of port. At sea, every stock feels the force created by the movement of the hull. When the vessel rolls, inertia makes each container want to keep moving in its previous direction. That force travels through the corner posts, into the twist locks, then into the lashing system and the structure of the ship. The bridge team watches how the vessel responds to the waves. Waves from the side can increase rolling. A change in heading can change the angle at which the waves hit. Slowing down may also calm the movement that keeps loading the stocks again and again. Those decisions have to come from the bridge because the deck can become too dangerous once weather gets worse. Crew members cannot move freely between the stocks when strong wind and water are crossing the deck. The securing work done in port becomes the main protection until conditions improve. From the bridge, changes in the ship's motion can sometimes be felt before the weather looks severe. The roll may last longer, or it may return with the same rhythm every time a wave hits the side. Officers compare weather information with the way the ship is actually responding. They choose a route that gives the vessel a safer reaction to the wave direction. When a heading change is made, the ship needs time to show a different response. The bridge team waits to see whether the roll starts to decrease. If the movement stays heavy, speed can be adjusted again. All of this happens while the ship still has to keep a safe distance from other traffic and navigation hazards. On the night of January 1 into January 2, 2019, the MSC 𝗬𝗍 was sailing through the North Sea toward Bremerhaven. The ship was carrying more than 8,000 containers. Heavy weather developed as the vessel passed waters north of the Wadden Islands. The rolling placed major loads on the stocks. The relatively shallow water also affected wave behavior and the way the ship responded. Seawater hit the side of the vessel and reached the cargo on deck. During that night, 342 containers broke loose. Around 6.6 million pounds of cargo fell into the sea. The cargo spread around the Wadden Sea and some of it washed onto beaches. Several containers sank. The missing objects became hazards to navigation and the coastal environment. Search work continued once the weather became safe enough. Investigators used calculations and simulations to study the movement of the ship along that route. They looked at the forces on the stocks when waves approached from certain directions. The findings helped the industry better understand conditions that can place extreme loads on large container ships. Once cargo leaves a container, it becomes a problem for the surrounding area. Packaging and goods can spread far from the point where they were lost. Cleanup teams search the coastline for debris, while survey vessels try to locate sunken containers on the seafloor. The World Shipping Council estimated that 576 containers were lost at sea in 2024 out of more than 250 million units transported. Every incident can require a search and a new risk assessment for other ships passing through the same area. After heavy weather passes, the crew inspects the cargo once the deck is safe. They check whether any lashings have changed position or whether a stock has started to shift. The inspection results become part of the bridge team's decision before the voyage continues. Most ships arrive without losing a single box. That result comes from decisions made long before the weather turns bad. Every part of the journey has to be handed to the next person in a condition they can trust. When the ship reaches its destination port, a quay crane lifts the container out of the bay. The box returns to the yard before being collected by a truck or train. The seal stays on the doors until the container reaches the receiver. Once empty, the container goes to a depot where the doors and frame are checked before it receives another booking. Repairs are made while the damage can still be returned to safe limits. The same box may go back to sea carrying completely different cargo. For the receiver, the whole system ends with something very simple. They see a closed door and a seal number. All the work that came before that moment was already finished before anyone touched the handle. Someone checks the seal number and cuts it. The locking bars are opened and the doors move for the first time since the cargo left its origin. After thousands of miles by land and sea, the goods inside are still where they were placed. The container has finished its job.